Hey everyone, my name is Jacob Horn and I'm a business analyst here at Nextech. In Nextech version 11.7 and higher, improvements have been made to the integrated credit card processing. The purpose of this webinar is to show you how to use the new integrated credit card processing in the Nextech practice management system. Go ahead and get started. First, I'm going to take you through setting up your merchant accounts and installing your terminal devices. So we're going to go ahead and select Tools from the menu and go down to Integrated Credit Card Processing Settings. If you were previously using Nextech's old credit card processing platform, your merchant accounts will be transferred to the new setup automatically, so no action is required on your part. Merchant account setup is permissioned off so that only specific users can modify the account setup. To add a new merchant account, click the Add button and give the merchant account a name. As you can see here, you can rename the merchant account or delete it. You will not be able to delete a merchant account that has transactions that have already been processed using it. Those merchant accounts will have to be inactivated by using this checkbox right here. Once a merchant account has been inactivated, it cannot be used to process new credit card payments. Next, you'll need to install your terminal devices. With the new integrated credit card processing, Nextech supports the Ingenico IPP320 and Ingenico ISC Touch 250 with electronic signature capture. It's important that you understand that these devices must be purchased from Nextech's online store at https://iccp.nextech.com because these devices must be injected with a special encryption to be P2PE compliant. For those of you that are already using Nextech's integrated credit card processing, that means that your old ID Magtech devices will no longer work with the new integrated credit card processing. However, those devices will still work to read driver's licenses in the General 1 tab of the Patients module. So if you're using Nextech on your local computer, you can click the Install Ingenico Device Driver button to launch the installer and install the drivers to your local computer. It's easy to do. All you have to do is click on Next throughout all of the prompts. And notice here that I didn't make any changes to the selections. I just hit Next all the way through. It's a very easy installation. If you're running Nextech on a terminal server or remote desktop connection, please contact our product support department to get terminal server installation instructions for your devices. And now we're ready to finish, and our device has been installed. And it's also very important to note that after you install the Ingenico device drivers on your computer, you won't actually see any activity on the device until you test the device or enable the integrated credit card processing. So, after you install the device drivers on your computer, you can click Test EMV Ready Device to make sure that the device is communicating with Nextech to process the transactions. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Test EMV Ready Device, and we're getting a message here. Please follow the prompts on the credit card device. The card used for testing this device will not be charged. We're going to go ahead and hit Proceed. My device is asking me to swipe the card, so I'm going to go ahead and swipe my credit card. And here we have a success message that says the device attached to this workstation has been tested successfully. So, once all of the terminal devices are installed at all of your office locations, you'll be ready to enable integrated credit card processing. For those of you that are already using Nextech's old credit card processing, it's important that you understand that enabling the new integrated credit card processing will delete all of the credit card numbers currently stored in the Nextech database. If you're using those credit card numbers to process payments for patients on a payment plan, these credit card numbers will be removed and must be entered again using the secure terminal device. In addition to removing all of the credit card data from the database, the credit card tab in the financial module will be removed completely as it's no longer needed. Transactions will only save in Nextech if they're authorized by the processor. So therefore, you'll want to review all of the pending transactions in the credit card tab before enabling the new integrated credit card processing. So now that you've done that, you should be ready to click Enable Integrated Credit Card Processing. You see here I'm getting a prompt on my screen that says to enable integrated credit card processing, all existing cardholder data must be purged from the database for security purposes. Once integrated credit card processing is enabled, credit card transactions must be processed using a secure EMV-ready device. An EMV-ready device must be connected to this workstation in order to enable the integrated credit card processing. So I'm going to go ahead and select the option that says purge all existing cardholder data and enable integrated credit card processing. You see here that my dialog changed and the new integrated credit card processing has been enabled. So if you were previously using Nextech's old credit card processing, it is now safe to remove all of your old ID Magtech devices because they're not going to work with this new credit card processing platform. These magnetic strip readers will, though, still work to populate the demographics from a driver's license in the General 1 tab of the Patients module. Next, we're going to jump into how to use the new integrated credit card processing with Nextech, and the first thing I'm going to cover is a brand new feature that is part of the new integrated credit card processing, and that's payment profiles. You can now securely store patients' credit card information in Nextech to process payments at any time. You can manage payment profiles in 3 different places inside of Nextech, and the first place to find payment profiles is in the Patients module, Billing tab, and when clicking on the new Payment Refund and Adjustment button, you're going to have a new option here that says New Payment Profile. Now this option is only available once the new integrated credit card processing has been enabled. So now once you're in the payment profiles, when you click on Add New Card, you're going to be presented with 2 options, and that is Card Present and Card Not Present. Card present is when you have the patient standing in front of you and have access to the actual physical credit card. Card not present means that the patient is not currently with you, but may be giving you their credit card number over the phone. In this case, you're able to type the credit card number into the terminal device and save the payment profile. So for this example, we're going to use Create a Payment Profile with the card present. Once you select card present, you'll see a notification on the screen that says to swipe the credit card. Now note that it does say the patient's credit card will not be charged. So when you're creating the payment profiles, you're always going to swipe the credit card. EMV doesn't matter at this point because when a payment profile is actually processed as a payment, the transaction will always be considered card not present. So I'm going to go ahead and swipe the card. And it's now prompting me to enter in the expiration date of the credit card. This is important because it's going to send the expiration date back out when you use this payment profile to process a later transaction. Again, please note that credit cards used for creating payment profiles will only be verified as a valid credit card and not actually charged. This function is also permissioned off where everyone can view the patient payment profiles but not create them. So once the payment profile has been created, the information will be displayed on the payment profile screen. If you entered in the wrong expiration date, you can click the current expiration date to change it. So I'm going to change this to a expired credit card. And you'll see here that the credit card disappeared from the screen. And that's because up here we have a checkbox that says Hide Expired Credit Cards. You can simply uncheck the box to see all of the credit cards on file, and you'll only be able to process payments to a non-expired credit card. Here you're going to find a preferred column with a checkbox inside of it. This checkbox is just a visual indication to the user of which credit card the patient prefers to be charged on if there's multiple credit cards on file. And of course, you're able to delete payment profiles by clicking on the credit card and select Delete Card. Just note, once the payment profile has been deleted, you will have to reswipe or re-enter the credit card information in order to create that payment profile again. Payment profiles are also accessible from the scheduler, so when you right-click on a patient's appointment, you can select Manage Payment Profiles, and you'll have the payment profile dialog here to add those credit cards and store them on file. Another area where you can access the payment profiles is from the Patients module, Activities menu, Financial, and Manage Payment Profiles. And again, you'll get that same payment profiles dialog for the selected patient. Now I'm going to show you how integrated credit card processing works inside of Nextech. I'm going to go to the billing tab of the patient's module, and I'm going to create a new payment. I'm also going to select charge as the pay method. And once integrated credit card processing is enabled and charge is selected as the pay method on the payment dialog, the dialog is slightly changed. There's now the ability to select a transaction type with 3 different options: swipe dip card, card not present, and other do not process. And I'm going to take you through each one of these different options. First, the swipe dip card is for card present transactions where the patient is standing in front of you and the credit card is present. With this option selected, you'll see the merchant account dropdown and cardholder billing zip code. The merchant account is available for you to change if you have more than one. If this is changed and a transaction is processed, this will save per user. The cardholder billing zip code pulls the zip code from the patient's General One demographics, but some banks don't require it in order to process transactions. In the event that you get a denial for invalid billing zip code, you can easily change it right here on the screen, and it won't update the zip code on the patient's General One demographics. You'll also notice a checkbox that reads Add Card to Patient's Payment Profile. This will automatically store the credit card on file inside the patient's payment profile once the transaction's been processed. This is turned on by default and is controlled by a global preference. So if you go to the Tools menu, go to Preferences, under the Patient's module, Billing section, in the Payments tab, you're going to scroll down a little bit, and the text reads default to add credit cards used for payments to payment profiles. So like I said, this is defaulted to yes, so it's going to automatically store those credit cards into the patient's payment profile. So if you do not want that to happen whenever you're processing credit card transactions, you'll need to set this to no. And it's also important to know that if you're running a transaction and the credit card is already inside of a patient's payment profile, multiple entries will not be made of the same credit card. One thing that's very important to understand that with the new integrated credit card processing, if you have our NextSpa module and you need to collect a tip from the patient, you'll need to collect the tip before processing the payment. But if you forget to collect the tip before processing the payment, you can always create a $0 payment and add the tip at the bottom. We are working on a way to prompt the patient for a tip on the credit card terminal. Let's go ahead and create a payment for a penny, and we're going to use the swipe dip card option. So when I click on OK, I'll be presented with the response text dialog. The prompt says waiting for customer. So most patients are going to swipe their credit card, but once EMV is enabled on your devices, if the patient swipes a credit card that requires them to dip their card, the terminal device will ask them to insert their card. So once the card has been swiped or dipped, if you're using the Ingenico ISC Touch 250, the patient will be prompted to electronically sign on the device. Once the signature's been accepted, you'll be prompted to print out the receipts. If the patient signed electronically, Nextech will know that and not print out the merchant copy by default, and only the customer copy will be checked. If the patient didn't sign electronically, both the merchant and customer copies will be checked by default. Or you can also click on No Receipt. Once you click on Print or No Receipt, the payment will save. And now payments will not save unless they're authorized by the processor. So one thing that you're probably wondering is, where does that electronic signature go? Nextech actually stores those electronic signatures, and they can be reprinted at any time in the event of a dispute. So you can right-click on that process transaction and click Reprint Credit Card Receipts, check the merchant copy, and hit Print. I'm going to go ahead and print this to a PDF. And you'll see here that the electronic signature is embedded inside of my merchant copy, so you can reprint that at any time. Next, let's process a card not present transaction. And if you notice, when I select card not present, the drop-down menu for use card on file shows up. This drop-down will contain all of the active, non-expired credit cards in a patient's payment profile. The default option is manual entry on device. This is defaulted for every transaction so that you don't accidentally charge a patient's credit card by mistake. If the text on manual entry on device is blue, this means that there are credit cards on file in the patient's payment profile. It's important to note that because Nextech's new integrated credit card processing has point-to-point encryption, credit card numbers can no longer be entered into the payment dialog and must be entered in on a secure terminal device. This is for the protection of your practice and for your patients. The last type of transaction is Other Do Not Process. This means that you can still enter in a payment for a different type of credit account, but this payment won't be processed through your processor. Let's go ahead and move on to processing refunds. In the new integrated credit card processing, we no longer require refunds being processed to be linked to an original processed payment. This will allow you to do partial same-day refunds, and for those on the existing credit card processing platform, you'll be able to refund those transactions from the old integration on the new integration. So we're going to go ahead and click on OK. And you'll see here that when creating a new refund from the Patients module, you'll see the same transaction types as before, but you'll see an additional option that says Refund to Original Card. If you're refunding a payment that was processed using the new integrated credit card processing, the refund will always default to Refund to Original Card. If that option is selected, the credit card does not have to be present. Also note that in Nextech version 12.0, you'll be able to refund tips by turning on a global preference. The last thing I want to review with you is the new report that comes with integrated credit card processing. So we're going to go here into the Reports module under the Payments tab. And for those of you that are using the existing credit card processing, when enabling the new integrated credit card processing, the credit card reconciliation report will be removed. There's a new report under the Payments tab called Integrated Credit Card Payments/Refunds. So let's go ahead and run this report. And let's take a look at how it's set up. The most important thing to pay attention to here in this report is the processed amount and the unprocessed amount columns. In the processed amount column, this will be any transactions that were processed by the processor on the new integrated credit card processing platform. The unprocessed amounts column will be any charge payments using the transaction type of Other Do Not Process, and these payments were not processed by the processor. That wraps it up for this webinar on Nextech's new integrated credit card processing. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact our product support department at 866-654-4396 or email support@nextech.com. Thank you very much for watching.